about the developments in the market and for the benefit of all our member banks. And currently, as you all know, that we are all going through some difficult times with a lot of travel restrictions, supply chain dislocation. The focus in the industry, in the market, has clearly increased on automation and digitalization. And as we all know, digitization or digitalization, as we call it, is not a new topic. This has been going on for quite some time. And as I look back, maybe more than 10 years at least, we have been talking about this thing about trade digitization, but it has clearly got a big thrust because of that ongoing pandemic. And this is one of the trade is one of the key identified focus area where it was realized that disruptions caused in the logistics and supply chain due to the COVID pandemic reiterated the need to build a resilient logistics sector to respond to the emergencies. And we all are quite sure, we all know very well that a modern, efficient, and digitally advanced logistics sector is the key to any country's economic success. And with our dream of being a 5 trillion economy with 1 trillion export, being a supplier for the world, it's very important that we are not losing out on this race. And we all know there is an acute need to simplify the creation, storage, and exchange of documents. And many players in finance, technology, or as we call the fintech world, are working in this area. Many pilot projects have been undertaken. Straight transactions have been done in fully digitalized mode. And still, there is not one common global standard which has emerged because there's a lot of work yet to be done, a lot of coordination and holding required. It's a trade is one area where there are so many entities, so many multi-parties are involved in this. So that's where it makes it more complex. And to ensure that such an exchange occurs digitally and in secured manner, in India also there's a lot of work had been going on in this direction. And recently you would have all seen in the news that a secured logistic document exchange, what we call it SLDE platform, has been developed by the Ministry of Commerce Logistic Department for that achieve the goal of ease of document management in the international and domestic markets. The logistic division in this task worked with the Cargo Exchange India Private Limited, who were the domain advisory to Ministry of Commerce for this purpose to develop the platform. And also they had got involved with, they had brought into the loop some of that banks operating in the Indian market. And today, to help our members get a better understanding of the platform, its salient features, and explain how the platform can help them achieve faster document transfer with increased transparency without losing the track of the documents and ensuring or without compromising on the security and safety. At FEDI today, we have invited 3 speakers who have been involved in the development of this particular platform, who have contributed to the process in a big way. And we have got today with us Mr. Sh.Srihari Icharapu, who's the Chief Executive for Cargo Exchange India. Welcome, Srihari.
Thank you, sir. Hi, everyone.
And to help Srihari in the banking aspect and especially from that AD's responsibilities and things, we have got Mr. Sanjay Kumar, Head of Structured Trade, ICICI Bank, with us today. Welcome, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. Hi to everyone.
And the next we have got is Mr. Pratyush Mehrotra, who is the Deputy General Manager for International Banking Domestic for State Bank of India. Good evening and welcome, Pratyush.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
With that background, not wasting any more time on my talk and other things, I know you people would be more interested to listen and hear to the experts. I'll open the discussion, and to begin with, I will start with Srihari. And Srihari, just request you to at least, if you can give us an idea about what is this system about. We know that it's secured logistic document exchange. That's nothing but a full form of that, and we all realize the importance of this particular, the security and the quick turnaround time. What is the system about? What is the technology it uses, the architecture of the system it's built on, and how you would like to explain for a common man, for a general banker's language and the term? Srihari, if you can help us understand that.
Definitely, sir. And thanks for giving this opportunity, sir, again. And to give you a background about Cargo Exchange is more of a technology company which works in the logistics space. We are a techno domain consultants, and we work very closely with Ministry of Commerce Logistic Division. So as you mentioned, sir, during the pandemic time, right, during the last year, around like June, July time, there was a big problem with exim trade as well as domestic trade. Most of the things got halted because of documents. One of the reasons was documents also. The moment of documents were not there. Nobody was ready to hand over the physical documents to different people, right? So that is where a bigger challenge came to the logistic division, saying that can we build a digital platform where people can exchange the documents. So when we traced back and we were actually the part of that particular digital initiative, and ADB Bank, Asian Development Bank was also available, was also working with us. So when we took back, we wanted to see that what exactly is the issue, right? And one thing, as a domain consultant, we understand that more than 80% of the documents in this trade happens physically today, right? And there are like different kinds of documents which are related to title of ownership, in which banks are also involved when there is a negotiation happens with respect to those documents. There are certain documents which are related to authenticity of whether they are coming from the right source or not. And these are the few of the places where lot of verification happens, and delays in processing also happens due to that, both by government as well as the partnering banks which are involved in the transaction, right? So that's where like we thought, saying that we proposed Government of India, Ministry of Commerce Logistic Division, see, we will build a platform where their users, the stakeholders of the stakeholders in this particular industry can share the documents, can manage the documents, and also like can will be able to generate or create the documents also in the same platform actually. And once they the major issue of title of ownership can be actually solved by the use of blockchain based technology. Currently we are using a private permission blockchain hyperledger platform, which is highly scalable, and it is hosted in Oracle cloud infrastructure, which is like again like highly secured and with their own certificate authorities actually, and we are using it as a service from them. And the secondly is saying that for authenticity of the documents, we have partnered with Mighty. We are using the India architecture over here, where we are using the CDAC, that is a e-Hastakshar, which is a Aadhaar enabled e-signature for all the Indian users basically. And this is approved by the IT Act also. And for outside India, means this transaction when it happens outside India, those users can be using any PKI authorized signature, e-signature onto this platform. So that is like core end-to-end objective, means problem, a solution to this particular problem. And after that, we have done a development of the proof of concept, like how to store a documents and how to actually transfer the documents on the blockchain. And post the POC development, we have done a stakeholder consultation. We have shown it to different freight forwarder association. We have shown it to banks. We have shown it to like industry bodies who are importers, exporters, FIO kind of organizations. And all these multiple organizations, once we took an approval, we did a POC also. So during POC, we did it with State Bank of India, we did with HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, and also with Axis Bank, and with different kind of importers and exporters, both which are belonging to India as well as outside India also, and using vessel operators and vessel agents. So current process, we are currently in a process of integration with IceGate, that is with customs, and also with IPA, Indian Ports Association, to give more feasibility to the users. So that is the whole process, sir, actually.
Thanks a lot, Srihari. That was a heavy dose of tech for me. For a traditional banker, when you talk about the terms like private blockchain, hyperledger, and CDAC and other things, but at least that gives an idea that there is a lot of effort, lot of work, lot of coordination which has gone into it. And you mentioned about that idea about need for that title verification and genuinity of documents. That's something I could easily relate to, and I'm sure that most of our participants also would be able to relate it. That's the key concern for all the banks whenever we are looking at all the participants, whenever we're looking at these kind of transactions. And you also talked about that, yeah, the document or the platform provides for facilitates to share, manage, generate the documents. Maybe we'll come to that, how is it there and to what extent it's already, what are the features which are already available on that. And one thing which you mentioned, yes, there has been proof of concept we have already done with some of the banks, and fortunately we have got two of the banks who had been involved in the POC here with us. And so I would like to hear from these two players, starting with Sanjay. Maybe if you can give us an idea about, as you have been involved in that development of the system and also handled the proof of concept. What has been your experience? How does it help in improving the turnaround time at a lower cost without compromising on the safety and security? Because that's always the biggest concern. And one more thing, though, Srihari has also mentioned that the transactions which you have handled were cross-border transactions. And what I would like to know from you, that is it system capable of handling both intra-region or cross-border within India, domestic trade, as well as the cross-border trade? And also, is it equipped to handle the transactions under the documentary credit, maybe the LCs, etc., which involves a lot many other complications? Or is it as of now meant only for that direct export, import, or bills on collection? Just Sanjay, maybe over to you, if you can just give us an idea about these points.
Yes, sir. Just to take it forward, what Srihari has talked about, in the POC and the current functionality which has got developed and put to us for POC in SLDE. In fact, we tested the documents flow in a typically cross-border transaction, that also under letter of credit. So it covered starting from a request for LC issuance, and its flow to the advising bank, again LC advising flow to the exporter, and exporter thereafter uploading the documents and taking it to carrier through the workflow for issuance of the BL. After the issuance of the BL, document flow back to the exporter, and exporter presented by transfer of those documents to the nominated / advising bank. And thereafter subsequent flows to the LC issuing bank and to the importer. It ended with surrender of BL to the carrier for notional taking delivery of the goods. So the entire document flows in the POC was by way of upload functionality of the PDF in a UAT environment. So to take your second and third question further, we need to test the functionalities developed on the blockchain in live environment after additional developments are carried out, and also some of the issues are addressed, like transaction processing capabilities on the platform. Second, since it was on a done in POC, integration with bank's internal accounting and messaging system is required. Thirdly, to provide a legitimacy, EBL functionality need to be created by integration with systems / platforms of service providers. And obviously the most important aspect, that is to ensure legal effects to some of the important documents like BL, BOE, etc., with regard to digital issuance, storage, transfer, presentation, burning. These are the works in progress, and after those only it will be seen how the platform translates into a happening platform.
Great. Clearly, there is still a long way to go, a lot of work to do. But one point I take note, you mentioned that, yes, you actually worked for a transaction which was under the letter of credit, the documentary credit, and the entire process went on right beginning from A to Z, if I can say. But yes, it happened under the UAD environment. But we had to look at in the real life environment, how does it go? And yes, that's something, because I think it's still a good first step, but more things to be done, like integration with the bank system, and also the legal aspects you mentioned about the electronic bill of lading and the title of ownership transfer of documents. That's right. So Pratyush, if you can request you to step in at this stage and just give us what has been your experience. Do you feel the similar issues, and what has been the overall learning of the process? I know you have not been involved right from the beginning in this process. That's a key issue with most of our PSU banks, the transfers and the changes which happen. But I would like to have your feel, maybe what's that institutional learning, which whatever you have picked up from your
Right.
predecessor, and then something if you can share with us.
Right. So in fact, I've taken the feedback from my team who were involved in this process, and they are currently with me, although I'm new in this department. But anyway, overall, our experience with the entire process was quite good with the POC process. That is, we were able to visualize the end-to-end digitization of trade transaction at a very good speed. And with very good security features were also what we could observe were embedded in it. Although actually, like we have already discussed, there is a need to have a solution which can offer speed and security, and to our like expectations, this platform provides us both. Regarding POC as a use case, as Sanjay ji just told, our use case was also like under letter of credit only. It was based on negotiation of documents under the LC. We, SBI, performed role of an importer's bank. That is, we issued the LC and visualized the following steps in the POC. In the part one, we uploaded a scanned copy of LC to the Indian bank or the exporter bank, which was already sent to the exporter's bank via SWIFT. So this was, as Sanjay ji told, this was a PDF copy with an e-signature on it. This was done, the e-signature was applied through the Aadhaar-based OTP that Sh.Srihari just told. So that took care of the security part. In the part two, the part two that we played in the POC was that we received the documents in the incoming folder from the exporter's bank. So the documents that we received in the incoming folder was checked by us. It was found to be in order as per LC terms, and then we transmitted it to the importer for taking possession of goods. So this was the exact role that we played in the POC. As far as our observations are concerned, the platform appeared very user-friendly. The nomenclature of the menus to identify were very simple, like an incoming folder, and we could easily make out from the name of the folders about the functionality of that particular menu. The upload and transmission of documents was real-time. It was a very good speed that I told earlier. And the third feature that I like to make an observation was that all documents like invoice, packing list, certificates, they were available individually to us. And based on the criticality level of the document, system had different authentication structure. That is, for negotiable instruments, documents like bill of lading, it required e-signature along with blockchain key also. Whereas for other documents, we required only e-signature. Regarding the issues, like Sanjay ji just told, we need to have a work with integration with our bank system and scalability. Scalability will also be a challenge when all the stakeholders come on this platform, how fast we can scale this platform. The other question that you asked, our observation on the improvement of TAT cost, etc. So as we have already discussed, like in trade transaction, our majority of the time goes into movement of physical documents, which obviously is bound by the distance. So this platform facilitates enormous saving of time. So it saves time taken by banks also to validate the authenticity of physical documents. So yes, this platform will definitely help improve the TAT and facilitate the customer service. We are sure with the POC, our experience POC, we could make out that this is a very salient feature in this platform. Cost also, like the trade margins are shrinking, everyone of us know. This platform provides us saving on the physical transmission of cost of documents. So here we will save cost. Sometimes there are delay also, which may result into demurrage, etc. for the parties. Storage and retrieval of documents is also very easily available. So this will be very easy and cost effective. Security feature, I had already mentioned that it is all the documents that we upload is either to be e-signed or there need to be a blockchain key for that, which also ensures secured, trustable and tamper-proof platform. And this also had an audit trail. So these are the features that appeal to us, and we are sure that this will be a game changer in times to come. And regarding your last question, whether it can handle domestic and inland trade. So although the transaction we took was for export transaction, but what we have understood with various communication and interactions, this can handle inland trade also. So I don't think there is any issue on that side.
So Before I go further, I must congratulate Srihari. Looks like that you have got something which at least in the first stage is meeting the requirement and getting the kudos from the bankers.
Thank you, sir.
That's
They have
quite
given a lot of effort to us actually.
that's quite encouraging. But as you know that trade, especially the international trade, is a very complex issue, and we all know that credibility, trust is the key factors, and there are so many agencies involved in this. So next, really, I would also like to get an idea about, as you mentioned, that the goal was there to create a structured, secured way of management and exchange of documents that's there, which both the bankers have already mentioned that yes, though here what we were talking about is in the PDF form, maybe not the generation of the document. I'll come to that a bit later. But what I want to know from you is that since we are talking about the cross-border and LC-backed documentary credits, etc., there are so many other agencies also involved, and there are so many international guidelines, especially entities like ICICI and others, and they are also working on standardization of these kind of digitization and practices, standard digital rules and practices like EUCP, EURC, and recently URDTT. And ICC, as you know, we all know, has got a roadmap for accelerating moving towards the digitization of the international trade. Now, what I would be interested to know, and Sanjay also mentioned about that legal aspects of electronic bill of lading and other things, where we know that already there is a talk going on. There is a model of electronic transferable records. But I would like to know from you that whatever things you have created, the first step that right now and going forward, there may be some more evolution happening in that. Is it aligned with whatever is happening in the rest of the world? How is it in sync with that? How is it finally going to converge that? Because there's no point we having a system which is not talking the same language as the other developments happening elsewhere in the world. So how well tuned you are with the rest of the developments in the rest of the world?
So to give an answer to this, right, when we lay down that whole principle or the architecture of this particular application, first thing we made sure very clearly saying that it should meet the international standards, right? So it will actually work based on the principles or the guidelines which are there for the EXIM trade, means that when it comes to a cross-border trade. And also it should follow the current principles which are followed in the domestic trade also. So both these things are being taken care. And the initial, we divided this because it's a kind of big application. So we divided this into two phases. The phase one was thought about to develop in only like manage the storage as well as manage the transfer of applications. So that is the reason every document which we have given is in the format of PDF actually, right? Or a PDF or any other kind of document which can be uploaded and it can be shared to different stakeholders. So there is no like a generation of the documents. We have not kept it in here because that has to follow certain, when we start generation, it has to follow certain standards as per ICC standards or Unified Customs Standard or middle law kind of things, right? Also, like even if it is a domestic trade, even if you want to issue a load receipt, it has to be IBA approved load format actually. So certain formats we are still under study. So that will be taken care as a part of phase two activity for us, because the whole idea first is to not to re-engineer any of the existing processes of the bank. Let's say we don't want to get into the SWIFT process and change the SWIFT process because adoption will not be there, because there will be like banks will also have to change a lot of things. So initial thought process was manage the storage, manage the transfer. If that is successful, then we will manage the document creation also. But everything will follow the principles of what the trade happens based on that. So that has been completely taken care.
I will just
yeah, please, Sanjay. I was about to ask you about that. What is your take on that?
Yeah. I would just like to highlight that since the participants are also mostly the bankers, and obviously bankers are aware of various initiatives currently ongoing, primarily in two broad areas. One is legal systems to recognize digital documents in trade, which primarily creates payment obligations as well as obligation to perform, which are primarily bill of lading, BOE, insurance certificates, which are at par with that issued in paper originals. So how the legal systems will recognize digital documents at par with that issued in paper originals. Second activity which is going on globally is development of electronic communication systems and technology to demonstrate beyond doubt that these meet the functional equivalence of that being issued, transferred, controlled, presented, and extinguished had it been in paper originals. So I will elaborate slightly more with regard to the first part related to giving legal effects to the digital trade documents. Like you said, UNICETRAL UNCITRAL has adopted model law on electronic transferable records, as is popularly known as MLETR, on July 2017. Having convinced that legal certainty and commercial predictability in electronic commerce will be enhanced only after harmonization of certain rules on legal recognition of electronic transferable documents. Secondly, it has to be on a technologically neutral basis and according to functional equivalence by adopting a functional equivalence approach. And therefore, UNCITRAL and the General Assembly of the UN Commission has recommended that all states means all jurisdictions, give favorable consideration to this model law when revising or adopting legislation relevant to electronic commerce. As we are aware, recently, Republic of Singapore, through amendment to their Electronic Transactions Act, adopted with some modification the UNCITRAL model on ETRs, allowing for the use of electronic and digital versions of transferable instruments and reducing the reliance on and necessity of physical hard copies. Singapore is amongst the first major trading hubs to adopt MLETR. Apart from Singapore, Bahrain and Abu Dhabi global market has also adopted this MLETR. Just to give you a recent development that we were hearing for so long why it is not happening in English law. So Law Commission of England and Wales has also recently floated a consultation paper asking for responses on proposals to allow for the digitalization of documents used in trade, more particularly bills of exchange and bills of lading. The important aspect in physical form, it relates to possession, to effect their operation in the creation of payment obligation or obligation to perform. They have put the cutoff time for responses to come, that is July 31, 2021. Thereafter, they will be preparing the draft bill. And what we are hearing out from the experts globally, that the enabling provisions may be coming in effect sometime in 2022. In India, we had got one chance to interact with a government body at the central level on use of blockchain in trade finance. During that interaction, we submitted a white paper, including recommending to them for adoption of MLTR in IT Act 2000, because most of the model law, whether it is electronic commerce or electronic signatures or use of electronic communication in international contracts, these are all covered under IT Act 2000. And also we suggested, like in Singapore, to also carry out necessary amendment to other substantive laws like Sale of Goods Act, Bill of Ladings Act, Negotiable Instrument Act, which covers the properties of the mentioned transferable documents, so as to avoid denial of legal effect, validity, or enforceability solely on the grounds that the mentioned transferable documents are in electronic form. So this is with regard to, because whenever we are doing some or other POCs, the questions are coming from large corporates that are we dealing in digital documents which are having the legal value attached to, which otherwise in the physical copies when I am talking about, it is not copy, physical originals attract. So these are the questions. Obviously, we are very much aware, but corporates are also asking. So the enabling provision is required. Second part, I would elaborate, that is related to development of electronic communication systems and technology to demonstrate the functional equivalence, which could meet the provisions of MLTR. I would like to say that a lot of initiatives, majorly on blockchain technology, are globally being worked upon. Some of them could be listed as Trade Trust, DLT ledgers, CODA EBL, and so on and so forth. However, interoperability among various platforms remains a challenge. Restricting its scalability, or for that matter, doing even POCs. Hopefully, what we hear from technology service providers, that the CODA 5 version, which is expected to be launched sometime next year, may help in this regard. Similar works, I understand, is also going on from IFTA, ICC, DSI side to help standardize the electronic/digital documents to enable seamless interoperability between platforms, systems, without compromising on functional equivalence aspect during the life cycle of these digital documents. So these are some of the activities which are ongoing. I understand these are being worked on with a timeline. Hopefully, we see these platforms creating a integration on peer-to-peer to make it a scalable one. Because in this complex world, no platform is expected to bring all the trading parties as well as associated parties on one platform. So that is what my take is.
Thanks a lot, Sanjay, for elaborating upon that. I know for sure that legality is the key issue, and as you brought it out very well, is harmonization of role, functional equivalence, and also that interoperability. That is one of the key area. Before I come back to Pratyush, Srihari, just a quick question I would like to ask you. The points which Sanjay has highlighted, especially on the interoperability, and he also mentioned probably CODA 5 likely to be launched in the next year is likely to have that kind of features, but without compromising on the functional equivalence and without compromising or breaking the chain in the process or safety security. As an IT person, how confident or sure you are of that we'll be able to achieve that in the coming few months or quarters or year kind of thing? Just quick take on that.
So from a technology perspective, it's nothing is impossible. Means we can do it. So it is nothing that we cannot do it. It's all about data sharing partnerships between two different blockchains, right? Let it be like, let's say today we are using Hyperledger Fabric, and like somebody is using, let's say Singapore is using CODA, right? Maybe like another company which is using CODA, and they doesn't want to come on this particular platform. But if there is an integration between this blockchain to blockchain, okay, and the visibility means, let's say once I hand over the documents to that particular chain, I will be like ending that particular document movement on this particular chain, right? But we expect saying that whatever is happening with respect to that particular document on the another chain should also be reported back to this particular chain, so that the users who are initially involved, they will get the visibility of that particular whatever is happening. So this is all about the partnerships. and the way we are planning to do integration. So from a technology perspective, sir, it is purely doable. It is like we need to sit and do the partnership with various platforms which are already available. So that is one of the reason we are also planning to talk to the existing platforms which are from a particular liners, from a shipping line, from particular countries, so that actually we can transfer, means we can actually do a inter-transfer between one chain to another chain.
Okay, so my only concern was that we shouldn't end up having islands of different systems and processes, etc. From what you are saying, yes, you are quite hopeful, and we also have our fingers crossed that we'll be able to achieve that interoperability, and we'll be able to achieve that one homogeneous global network of various system of people to take care of it. So coming back to you, Pratyush, just can you share, Sanjay mentioned about the client experience, the client things. What has been your take on that? How many banks, clients, or institutions have you onboarded, and what's your experience? Any feedback from the clients on this kind of platform, this issue? But would you like to share something with us?
So right now, sir, no, we have not been onboarded any client. We were only a part of the POC in coordination with one another bank where we executed a use case. So our bank is keenly looking on the developments that are taking place. The beta launch was done recently on 28th July. And what we presume that post beta launch, the platform is now available to all other stakeholders to be onboarded. And based on their experience, there will be further enhancement addition on this platform. And on our bank side, like SLDE is definitely a point of discussion in all our internal meetings, wherever we are looking to provide this facility to the customers in coming days, and definitely we will be on this platform very soon.
Okay, great. Sanjay, you mentioned about the backend integration in your earlier question. You talked about that, and Sh.Srihari also mentioned that this is something which is important, which is required. Otherwise, the system may lose its value or the advantages. What has been your take on this? Are you confident that the current form, the system is good enough, which can be patched on to the backend, maybe the bank's core banking system or things? What is your take on that?
Sir, here I would like to add that since it is a POC, POC need to get converted to CUG, and then only we can be able to list out all the concerns, guardrails, and work upon the issues with regard to the regulations, with regard to the statutory aspect related to it, and create a confidence among the clients why they should come on the platform. And obviously, when we talk about digital platform, it has its own native features: real-time visibility, scalability, transparency, consensus, immutability. Whether you name it, it is there. Only thing, the enabling environment to create a confidence among the corporates that while dealing with it, they are not compromising with any of the security aspects. And second thing, what we talked about, interoperability. Whenever we are talking to any of the platforms across, be it Singapore, be it Netherlands, be it anywhere, this realization is very much appreciated and ingrained in the scope of these technology owners or developers or platform owners or developers. However, we are some time away to see it happening. So we feel that we have done like Srihari, what he told about 4 banks had done the POCs. I think more and more clients should be brought in to do the POC so that we can go to the next stage of CUG. And during the CUG, we can obviously link. We need to integrate with our accounting system and messaging system, because otherwise the platform itself has to provide a solution about transaction processing in a seamless manner so that the records are automatically updated in the internal accounting system. And we will see that happening going forward after more and more POCs, more and more CUGs coming in by creating a confidence around the corporates while doing transactions on this platform.
That sounds quite encouraging. So I think the overall, from an outsider's perspective, if I look at it, seems like that we have got a first step we have taken. We have already done the POC, it has worked well, and we are confident that as we go forward, we will have the capability that we should be able to plug into the other systems being developed in other regions to ensure the interoperability, and we will be able to upgrade the technology and plug it with our backend systems also. That sounds, yes, it looks like we are moving in the right direction. One thing more which is coming to my mind, Sanjay, pardon me for that, for asking the question, but I couldn't hold myself back. We all know that in India, we already have got another entity, IBBIC, that some of our members for whom might find this term new. It's that Indian Banks Blockchain Infrastructure Company Private Limited, a company floated by 15 commercial banks. And incidentally, the two of the speakers here today, ICICI and State Bank of India, both of them are the co-founders of this company also. So somewhere I feel that that company is also trying to do the same thing what we are discussing today. So how do you see that, how the link between these two? Do you see these are going to be working in cooperate, coordinate, or maybe end up being competing with each other? I'm a bit confused about this because we are seeing two projects parallelly working on the probably the same goal. What is your take, since you are involved on both sides?
Sir, I would like to just say that IBBIC is now 18 founder member institution. Obviously, you are very much right. It was created to create a blockchain infrastructure for various use cases in trade finance. And step by step, more and more things will be coming up. Here, I would like to highlight by giving examples. IMDA and Singapore or Enterprise Singapore, the way it is called. These are arms of Singapore government. Both are promoting various technological initiatives in their geography in trade finance activities, which could be overlapping in the scope. That does not mean they will compete, but to provide alternate and superior experience compliant with regulatory or statutory framework, and will help connect with large number of players to give them digital experience by creating interoperability among the systems. So if you look at SLDE, I'm not sure whether Srihari has explained. SLDE platform has 3 nodes. Srihari, just correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
One is held by customs.
Right.
Another is held by IBA. And third one is Ministry of Logistics.
Right.
So they are also providing the connectivity with regard to the transaction at a different level. One at Ministry of Logistics, where the logistics players can come and take the digital entity through the that ledger. Similarly, customs, where shipping agencies or carriers, which otherwise not coming on IBBIC, can go and take the digital entity through the customs ledger. So it is not both the institution, even if at their peak of the developments, they will be complementing each other to take the transaction to the last end for the ease of transaction, which is not only financing transaction, but also the physical transaction by way of handling of shipment, by interconnecting with each other. Trust I have answered your query, sir.
Yes. So in simple terms, in the corporate world, what we are talking about a healthy internal competition. That both are working, yes, but both learn from each other's experience. So it is each one helping the other one also to grow, and so that at the end of it, we have got a much better, more well thought out system or the process or the structure over there. So I got, because it's not, this entire thing is not that straightforward that only one entity can run it. It is more the better kind of thing, so that you learn from
And
each other's experience.
and interoperability will help connect to the last leg, because it is not expected that one platform, each and every parties to the transaction will come on the one platform. There will be multiple platforms, but it will create a synergy to give the ultimate experience of digital way of doing the business.
Right, right. That explains. So I think there is still, issue is so wide and so complex that there may be lot many points coming out of it. We can continue with the discussion for some more time, but we have to respect the overall time limit which we have set for ourselves, and also for the attendees would be having maybe some other assignments. So right now I would like to just stop over here, and I can see that if there are any questions, queries, I can see that one of our participant has raised his hand, and if you are okay, maybe we'll just take what is the point. Ajitab, okay, would you like to say what is you wanted to share?
Thank you, sir. And this question is to Sanjay ji, and I just want to know when was the concept paper you submitted to the government around your recommendations of incorporating Ankitral into Model IT Act? And the second question is there a plan to also incorporate the smart contract feature of blockchain sometime into the future?
Sir, first question, Ajitab, I will not be able to answer because it is very private to my institution. But at times, government bodies reach out to us for helping them create innovation in various aspects of life, including trade finance. So during that interaction, we highlighted certain points, and they asked that why not you put up a white paper, and accordingly we put up the white paper. And second question I forgot, Ajitab. Smart contract, yeah. Since entire the underlying fabric which is a blockchain, the entire workflows which gets created on the blockchain is a smart contract only. So when I am talking about SLDE, there are certain things in subsequent developments because what Srihari has just highlighted, it was tested for certain purposes, and going forward, it will have additional features about creation. And then the smart contract will come in. As far as other blockchain platforms are concerned, entire workflows are based upon the smart contract only. No sooner certain authentication and authorization happens, the payment obligations or obligation to performance gets created between the counterparties who have authenticated, authorized, and who have accepted. Have I answered, Ajita, your question?
Yes, to some certain measures, and just wanted to clarify the intent of the first question was to understand the timelines by which we can expect.
I will give you slightly more insight to it. When we submitted to it, it was decided that why not we should do certain POCs with a global network and list out our experience, and then consolidate what all enablers are required in a consolidated way. Then we will be taking it to the right forum to provide those enabling provision. That's the reason here also what we were discussing just now, that more and more POCs, more and more CUGs will help consolidate and create a environment where the statutory bodies will be able to see the real value of digital way of doing a business, and then those enabling provisions will be coming up. And maybe government of India, maybe, though I am not the right person to say so, but the statutory bodies are looking eagerly at Law Commission of England and Wales.
Okay, thank you. This was really helpful. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thanks, Sanjay, for answering that query. And just something which I can add on that, just Ajita, for your benefit. Timelines are very difficult to define on this, but we know that in the current scheme of things, the regulators as well as the government authorities are keen to move in that direction. But you can't move very fast because these are the statutory issues, regulatory issues. You had to take every step with the very carefully and in a calculated move. The first time I got in touch, got to know about this particular project thing was Srihari, if I'm not mistaken, maybe more than a year back.
Yes, sir.
When this thing was being talked about. So it takes time for the thing to come to a stage where one can share with the general public when it comes in the open. Behind in the back room, in the background, lot of work is going on and continues to be there. I can only say that yes, everybody is keen to move in that direction to get the desired result. With this, I think we don't have any further questions. I don't see anything, and that is also okay. I have got Ms. Sai Santosh Kumar. Santosh, would you like to say something? You can speak, unmute and speak. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. So basically, we are hearing this jargons BOC and CUG. Just want to get some clarity about what BOC stands for and CUG stands for, and what convertibility we are speaking about.
Sanjay.
POC is basically a proof of concept. Proof of concept is something idea that whether it is a workable idea. Then the CUG is closed user group, so that proof of concept can be validated in doing live transactions between closed user group, wherein actually the parties are doing a transaction in live environment, means real value of the trade transactions are being done. I could not understand your third word, what you talked about.
Sir, the third word was about convertibility. We are saying that both the companies basically, okay, who are exchanging the documents, okay, should have the feasible, should have the integration, okay, and convertibility aspects, interoperability.
Interoperability is basically a functional aspect wherein a digital record stored in a system can go to another system in the same form and manner, giving a same effect. So that would require, if you talk about digital records, means it is metadata. Metadata comes under a particular format. So that format is called a standardization, the standard format. So the standard has to be a uniform, so that the interoperability of that document can be done between two systems. This is one aspect. When we talk about blockchain, then interoperability has a different notation at all, by whether the digital entities of the users are also visible at the two platforms for identification. Trust I have answered your query.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay. Now, I think we had quite an exhaustive, elaborate exchange of thoughts, discussion on this, and there have been so many points, so many things I don't think I will be able to do justice if I try to summarize about it.
Mhm.
The only thing which I think, okay, yes, there has been a big step taken in the direction which we all so far we have been talking about Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and smaller countries and developments happening in the world. And in the last 2-3 months, we ourselves at FEDI have got more than 2-3 seminars on this particular discussion about the digitization. This I see as a big positive step, big positive initiative happening over there. And based on whatever the feedback we have got based on the discussion, looks like that we are moving the right direction. And this is something which we all would be very keenly watching for and seeing how we can reach the end goal of end-to-end digitization for the international trade. And frankly, if you ask me, India, having been a leader in the IT world, there is no reason why we should not be driving this initiative also globally. And domestic trade, I always believe we already have got all the infrastructure, at least for the domestic trade, to do in fully digitized form. And with this thing, I'm pretty confident that we will be able to come up to the level for the international standards also. With that, I would like to, on behalf of FEDI, on behalf of all our member banks, convey my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers today, Sh.Srihari, Sanjay, and Pratyush. Thanks for sparing time. Thanks for explaining to us in such detail all the intricacies and the aspects of this. With that, I'll just close the seminar here. Once again, thank you very much for your time and effort for joining us today.
Thank you very much, sir,
Thank you.
for giving an
Yeah, thank
opportunity.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.